Good evening, hello, and welcome to the 2019 Regional Annual Sports Awards, coming to you live from Namibia, live in the capital city, Windhoek, and we are at Safari Court, and tonight it's all about celebrating the sportsmen and women of the Southern African continent, and we're talking about the Glitterotsi that is going to be happening here. We're celebrating all sports codes. We're talking about athletics, rugby to football, netball to chess, and so much more. Now, of course, already been here, we have seen so many athletes, and one category to look out for is, of course, Journalist of the Year. We have Mopetami, who's nominated, Lauren, who's also nominated in Junior Sports Woman of the Year. Definitely a category that you must be looking out for. I'm super excited, and of course, we'll be talking to those that are nominated in the categories to find out how they're feeling about the night, and of course, what Rasa means to them. So make sure that you catch us as we speak to them. With me now, it is the LLC chair, Mr. Ervin Javera. Good evening, lovely to have you here, and I should say you look dapper, you clean up very well.
Thank you so much. It's a stunning event. We need to look like stunning people.
Right, you need to represent. Now, let's talk about the Rasa quickly, 2019.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I see our video just cut abruptly, but all the same, I want to welcome you all to this auspicious day when we have an auspicious event where we are going to have a lunchtime with excellency. My name is Merit Munzwembiri. I'm a media personality. I've been a sports journalist for the past 10, 15 years, but now I retired and I'm assisting, though I love continuously mentoring young athletes. On my panelists today, on a day like today, where we are going to be discussing about the Africa Union Sports Council Region 5, whose theme or whose tagline is the leading home of innovation and excellency. We want to have a lunchtime with excellency. And when we say we want to have a lunchtime with excellency, it's because we are engaging with three powerful women, women that have seen it all in the field of sport, women that have taken the leadership roles by the horns. Others have come through from being athletes to coaches, to being administrators, and others have grown from mysterious backgrounds, coming up to then take from backgrounds where they were in marketing to coming up and taking control of, should I say, Region 5, or should I say Africa? Because this woman, like you'll see, she has been all over it, from COSAFA, from CAF, from FIFA, and I don't know, the sky would be the limit for her. But first, let me just give you just a small rundown of who our audience is. Our audience is found on Facebook, where we are streaming live right now. And also in this particular Zoom, we actually have people coming from all over the world. We have people coming through from France, from Mali. We also have people coming through from Botswana, from Zambia, from Zimbabwe. So our audience is quite rich. And as a point of note, we are recording this session. So please, we will be sharing it also on the Africa Union Sports Council Region 5 Facebook page. But for the advice of those that may come in and put on their screens, please, we are recording this session. In the house, I have three distinct women of great magnitude, women that when I look at, I'm awed just at the thought of how they've managed to be able to get to here. But how we'll run through the show is I'll take these women through a set of questions or through an interrogation where we will be conversational and we'll be discussing how they've managed to rise beyond all the obstacles, how they've managed to break the barriers to go into women's sports leadership. I will start off with our first guest, and our first guest, just by a brief profile or introduction to who the guests are. The first guest would be Kaidi. I hope I'll pronounce it correctly. It's Kaidi Kanaute Konkara Oli. She's a Malian and French citizen. She holds many hats in administration. Before going into sports administration, she played professional basketball in Europe, and in particular in France, where she won 5 French national championships. She was rather a member and co-captain of the Mali women's basketball, which qualified and competed at the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. The team qualified for the Olympics after winning the 2007 FIBA Africa Women Championships. In 2013, Tonkara was named the president of Zone 2 on the Association of National Olympic Committees of Africa, ANOCA Athletes Commission. She also volunteers to represent, empower, and educate athletes. She is as young as 42 years old and currently chairs the WADA Anti-Doping Association Education Committee. Eddie, welcome.
Thank you, Merit, for a great introduction, and it's a great honor to share this stage with incredible women, Sue and Desiree. It's a great honor, and I really also thank the Region 5 RSC for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think our audience would love to know just a little bit about how your sports journey began.
Thank you, Merit. I think it's about the same pathway for every sportswoman or sportsman. It starts with passion. It starts with a dream. I think mine was just to put on a basketball jersey. You know, I grew up in Bamako, capital of Mali, next to the biggest stadium in the country where all the basketball games were taking place. So the players used to walk by my door every day. And so the dream started there. I just wanted to wear their gear and look like them. I think it's always the same. And then it comes a lot of work and a lot of resilience, which is not easy. In my part of the world, we are from a Muslim culture, so it's not very well seen when women play sports, especially wearing shorts. So I must say that at the beginning, I didn't get much support from my family, let's say, and I think that also gives you some extra motivation sometimes when you have to fight adversity to get what you want. So I think, yeah, basketball was a passion at a very early age, and a pleasure for me to play the game, to access the game. So that's how it all started, Desiree.
All right, you hold multiple positions with immense responsibility in sport, both at WADA and at IOC. And this is really amazing. As a Black African woman, how do you feel about fellow Black ladies, maybe, not being with you in this space? Many of them not being with you in this space. And how do you propose or maybe suggest as fellow women to go in so that they can rise to the levels where you are now?
I think it's really a matter of desire to contribute, and at any cost. I think for me, I never ask what's in there for me. I always have in mind what's in there for our continent, what's in there for our athletes, and always raise your hand when there's an opportunity. I think I applied for the IOC to become a career plus trainer because I was appointed as an athletes commission chair. I didn't know how to bring a more meaningful contribution to my mandate than through education for our athletes. So I seized the opportunity to become a trainer in that program, and later that I was presenting in and had the chance to present it in over 50 countries for the IOC, and to become a steering committee member. But I think it's people need to understand in sports there's a lot of voluntary positions. This was voluntary for me. It was taking extra time, but I think when people see your passion to contribute, your passion to help your continent, then they'll be willing to work with you. So I think my advice will be, don't ask first what's in there for me. Ask what's in there and think about what's in there for your continent, what's in there for your athletes, what's in there for your sport. For me, education was a key, really a key changer, especially when it comes to career transition, and women even more so than men, when we know how precarious the condition of women can be in practicing sports. So I think for me, it's always been about being a volunteer, wanting to contribute, and taking the time to do so, because I know that we all have busy schedule, we all have the busy family duties, etc. But it's a matter of, you know, how much you want to contribute. And so please raise your hand if there's an opportunity when you feel you can make a difference. If you have a frustration, you think something that's unfair, you think something that can be fixed, and you feel like you can contribute, please raise your hand. Don't ask what, but ask how can I help. I think that'll be my advice. And really looking forward, and I'm seeing more and more actually Black and African women raising their hand and coming in and supporting and helping and contributing. And so this is very encouraging that we are moving forward. We're moving forward and we're learning how to move forward together also by supporting each other. I think that's very important. I have, throughout my journey, the support of many, many, many amazing women. And you are from Zimbabwe. I have my colleague there, Kirsty Coventry, who's now the Minister of Sport, but very supportive of, obviously. We have really now a network where we can support each other and encourage each other and share our experience and our knowledge.
You said in your first statement that your family was not very supportive when you started. And today, if we want to look at where you stand, that transition, that progression from being an athlete right into what you are today, a top administrator, both assisting at WADA and at IOC. How have you managed to overcome some of the obstacles that you encountered? Like, for example, the one that you say that families sometimes are not very supportive, especially when it comes to the girl child.
Definitely. I think it's about knowing that you can make a difference and being really resilient and have faith in what you can achieve. Because I think in many road and athletes know that you might get discouraged sometimes. We learn how to fall and jump back on our feet very early. In every sport, you know how to lose and come back and how to deal with frustration and people not always supporting you. But if you have in mind and you know in your heart that this is the right thing to do, I think you have an inner strength that no one and nothing can fight. I think it's about really believing that you can make a difference. And what's amazing is that as you move along the way, you will meet those people who tell you the right thing and who are doing the thing that you're doing and will encourage you. I think for me, it's been that on a journey that I felt I was alone in the beginning, but now I have a huge family. I'm surrounded with people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing in different ways, in different countries. It becomes another family outside of your family that even if you don't get support in the beginning, then you'll find your own support system along the way. And that's very encouraging. And I think that's a driving force, something that when you hold on to something, you'll see at the end, you'll see the light, and you'll meet the right people to push you and to get you where you want to go. And that's amazing. That's really what I love about the Olympic movement. That's what I love about sports. It's your family outside of your own family, let's say. It's your second family.
All right, as an athlete, just give us that experience. Do you see, or in terms of women in sport remuneration, is it the same with that of their male counterparts? And how is this status and mindset? How can it be changed?
Merit,
I'm asking the athlete in you now.
Yes, Merit, and I saw you smiling because you know the answer already. We all know that sports is already a microcosm of the society. So whatever is happening in society with regards to women is happening in sport, but I will say in sport that, and we have football people with us today. It's even worse. It's even worse in basketball. I think I've seen a report lately where they're comparing Sue Bird in the U.S., who's one of the top basketball players I've ever seen, 7-time champion in WNBA, and compared to LeBron James, her salary is 300% lower. Which is scandalous, because they're playing the same, they have the same number of titles, equivalent journey as athletes and successes as athletes. So no, the equality is nowhere to even be being there yet. A lot of efforts are being done, a lot of advocacy and activism is taking place to ensure that women can somehow pretend one day to the same parity, but so far it's really not the case. So a lot has to be done there. A lot, again, of sensitization, advocacy, and a lot of just matter of also taking decisions. It's about finding something that say, why not do it equally? Why not do this? So a lot of arguments are always brought up, media coverage and so on. So it's a matter also, I think it's a matter of making the decision to do it. So when are we going to do it? Time is now. It's really time to end sexism, to end gender bias when it comes to women's sports. It's time to really change things and ensure that women are treated equally, salary-wise and exposure-wise when it comes to sports.
Thank you. Katie, just hold it there. I want to introduce our next panelist, our next guest. And this woman, I don't know, hey, she holds a glittering sporting career that spans, from, 1994 right up to today. I want to call her the Iron Lady of COSAFA, because her name is Sue de Storms, and she has been there in almost everything. She has seen it all. She has assisted in terms of planning at CAF. She has assisted in terms of development committees, even at FIFA, in terms of competitions. And she is a lady who has really brought the face of football to Southern Africa through the COSAFA tournament. So I wouldn't want to go into your whole profile, because we would spend the whole day just trying to go into that whole profile. But maybe in a brief, can you introduce yourself? How do you see yourself? How would you introduce yourself if somebody asked to say, who is Sue?
Sorry, currently, as you know, I'm the Secretary General of COSAFA, which is the Council of Southern African Football Associations. It's the regional confederation that is aligned with Region 5. But where did I come from? As you said, some of us have got some strange places that we popped up from, but mine not so strange, because although I started off in the world of insurance, in 1994 I joined a sports marketing company that was just getting into football in South Africa at the time, after South Africa had re-entered international football in 1992. That was really the birthing place in terms of my integral knowledge and experience of eventing, in particular eventing at football competitions, and led me ultimately to work for COSAFA. We, whilst there at the sports marketing company had conceptualized a couple of other big tournaments in South Africa that were sponsored at the time by SA Breweries, Castle Lager, which was the Simba Four Nation, the Nelson Mandela Challenge. And then we did another one, which was the Simba Four Nations, which was another fabulous tournament that was the flagship underpinning an under-12 development program around the country. So that was very, very fulfilling at the time. So it led us on to develop and conceptualize the COSAFA Castle Cup, as it was called at the back in 1997, and and are working alongside this organization called COSAFA that had been established in 1983 and plodded along, but wasn't really kind of at the forefront of people's knowledge, as to who COSAFA was and what they were doing. But that tournament really put COSAFA on the map. And after running that tournament for many years, but from the marketing company's perspective, alongside COSAFA, I then eventually joined COSAFA in 2011 as their chief operations officer and subsequently the general secretary position. So that's kind of a brief introduction as to how I got where I am now. But the journey has been rich, I must say. At the time when I got into football, it was something that I would have never have expected, but it was the right place at the right time for me, and it really has been a rich journey. As you've said in your original introduction, I've had the pleasure and the honor to work alongside and with CAF on many of their competitions since 2005 in different positions, and I've been on FIFA. The FIFA Development Committee for 4 years, and now on the organizing committee for FIFA competitions, which both positions, fabulously rich in terms of the experience and exposure.
We know football is such a very masculine sport, and I think our audience would really love to know, to say, how has it been for you? And where do you draw your strength and the confidence to lead, particularly even navigating the politics of football?
I try and stay away from politics of football as much as I can. Yeah, certainly, my journey as a woman, and I've been kind of moving up and down Africa since 1996 on different things, whether it is for on behalf of COSAFA or CAF, on television roles or tournaments, etc. And yes, back in those days, it was very much a male-dominated area. But one within which I've always felt comfortable, because I think if you are confident in your role and what you're doing, what you can bring to the table, you are not there just as window dressing. That you've got something of value to add to the sport, and to all those that you meet. You come into people cross your paths. I'm a firm believer for a particular reason. You may not know it at the time, but and you do what you're doing on a daily basis, and hopefully with passion, which is certainly what led me here in the first place. And through that, you make an impact, on people's lives without even realizing it. As do they, in return for you. So it's a symbiotic relationship. But through having been, in my various positions, and more particularly, I think from 2017, that was really the turning point in terms of women's football in our region. Although we had, as COSAFA, been organizing the women's at a senior level, the women's competition since 2006, but every second year or maybe every fourth year, because we didn't have the funding. In 2017, FIFA President Gianni Infantino introduced the FIFA Forward program, and made, over and above the national associations, made that program available to the zonal unions. COSAFA is one of the 6 zonal unions of CAF, being the Southern African region and the largest in terms of members and land mass. And through that program where the zones are given a certain amount of money per year, specifically aimed at developing women's and junior sports, that has made the difference in terms of really escalating and fast tracking women's football in our zone. We've still got a long way to go, by no stretch of the imagination, but we have come in leaps and bounds, and I'm sure that Des will attest to that, since 2017, because we are now able to organize women's competitions both at the senior level as well as under 17 and under 20 on an annual basis. And it's only through regular competition that one is going to get anywhere.
Thank you. Interesting. Our participants, please do feel free to send in your comment, your questions in our chat box. Those watching us on Facebook, please send us a message or your comments in our chat box as well. Just send us messages, we'll receive them, and we hopefully be able to answer to all the questions. So you speak of that richness that you have brought in, particularly in the development of the women's game. And obviously, that makes you a great inspiration to a lot of women in sport, and particularly those in football. How have you helped other fellow women? I know Desiree is also looking at it and saying, wow, this is where I should also be coming in. How have you helped fellow women to rise to the occasion, to taking up leadership spaces?
Well, for a start, what we've, as COSAFA, always tried to do with any of our competitions, and being at a zonal level, some people do things, and unfortunately, some of our would-be or prospective partners, sponsors, find that a zone is not quite as sexy as getting involved, with a continental championship. But I think the reverse is true, because for anybody wanting to associate their brand at a zonal level, there's just so much more that they can get out of it. Yes, it doesn't necessarily always have the international stars, but we have made the international stars coming through the COSAFA tournaments. We have produced many of the male and the female athletes who have gone on to overseas careers, or whether in their own country, etc., but to be having professional contracts, etc. And not only the players, but also the referees. Through doing regular competition, it gives referees, both male and female, and let's concentrate on the female right now. The fact that we've got 3 women's competitions a year, and this year we'll be having a 4th one, gives that much more game time and to referees, female referees who are coming up, and often in the past it's starting to change slowly in some of our countries, but a lot of the time these female referees have rarely had an opportunity to actually hone their skills. So they do all their training, etc., but where they're going to get the game time. And it's always been very important for COSAFA that we may not, get lots and lots of money from partners, but as long as we can put on the tournament, and critically, as long as we have got a broadcaster to showcase what we are doing. It's showcasing not only the COSAFA brand, but more importantly, and most importantly, I think, it's showcasing our players, our referees, our coaches, our administrators. And that's how, they are going to come into their own and be given a chance to step up and take their rightful place at the table. Just in terms of that, taking the place at the table, COSAFA is about to launch. We will be launching on the 31st of March, an online program called the COSAFA Women Leadership Program, which we're very excited about. We've opened it up to our member associations to put forward their candidates, and looking at kind of middle management, generally speaking. And it can be people, who are working as administrators in their federations. They can be coaches, they can be team managers, they can be working at the league in their country or a club. And we've put together with our partners, the Foundation for Sport Equity, which is based in the Netherlands, and also an organization called Think, that have done a lot of work for FIFA in the past in terms of motivational and leadership courses. We will be rolling out this program, which will run from the 6th of April until the end of August, for 30 to 40 people. And we are really, really looking forward to that. We will be spreading that message so that everybody can join in for our launch on the 31st of March. But that's just one of the ways in which COSAFA and the many people who work with COSAFA, not for, but with, we've built up such a rich a grouping of people who give tirelessly, of themselves, whether it's in a tournament or outside of a tournament, working, on our media, working on events like, like this program that we're about to develop. And it's all about really sharing, their knowledge and giving back to women, of our region. And hopefully, the program, we've no doubt, will be a great success. And we then see rolling it out and sharing it with our sister zones in the rest of the continent.
Thank you. Now that you speak of women leadership course that is going to be coming on board, I think our participants are also those, particularly in football. Here is the news for you, an exciting news coming in. And I think maybe to also play it back to say the Africa Union Sports Council Region 5 is also on an initiative to try and develop women leaders. And they have a women leadership program where they train 20 women in each year. In the end of the year, they anticipate to have trained 200 and to have trained 2,000 by the year 2028, because they are saying sport inclusion in terms of their strategy number 3 is speaking to sport inclusion, and they're looking at women being there at a ratio of 40% in whatever, be it leadership, be it anything else. So when you were talking about the competitions that COSAFA is going to bring, is particularly for the women, my mind was playing on the fact that recently we have a new CAF president, Mr. Patrice Motsepe, and congratulations on that new appointment. But I want to find out, in his initial press conference, he made a pledge to say, I would want to visit all the 54 countries and to discuss developmental projects. And you are one person that have pioneered of that has led development of youth and women's sport, particularly through COSAFA, but also beyond COSAFA, taking it into CAF and into the FIFA region. How do you see, or what angle should we position ourselves so that we can also, as women, harness from the excitement that he shares with us to say, let's develop our sports, especially women and the youth?
Well, I think as part of one of the pillars that we are including in our women leadership program is giving women the tools to be able to step up, move up the ladder, take their place at the table, so that they can be the ones to be driving not only women's sport, because I don't think women need to be pegged, into a little box that says women's football. But certainly that's where, our passion would and should lie, is to really be pushing women's football. But I mean, the sky is the limit, and I think that we need to utilize, all opportunities that are available to us, as women in sport, really to be bold and speak up. As Katie was saying, if we think that there's things that are not right for whatever, whether it's injustice, whether it's sports gender equity, or whatever the case may be, not to sit back and say, well, nobody's going to listen to me. We've got to be bold. We've got to be opportunistic in driving our messages, and making ourselves heard. You've mentioned our new CAF president, and of course, in the southern region, we are very proud to have on board, and very confident that that he will he'll be a game changer. You can bet your bottom dollar that busy as he is, we as COSAFA are going to make every concerted effort to be putting the region's needs and wishes and what we can do forward, so that it can be harnessed. CAF has six zones, and they do like to have kind of equity between the zones, but sometimes it's not. So I don't think some zones should necessarily sort of be held back. You need to go and run with it, and others will catch up, because there really is so much more that COSAFA as a region can and should be doing. And one of the new tournaments that's coming online is the Women's Champions League, which is a club competition. It will be a zonal qualifier for the CAF Women's League, I think is what they're calling it, which will be the final tournament will be taking place in the last quarter of this year. This is something that we've actually been working on for the last 2 years, and we would have done it anyway. The fact that it will now be a zonal qualifier is that much better. But so that this is another opportunity for women across the board, because now we're dealing with club level. So this brings into perspective and into the spotlight a whole lot of other women, club managers, the team, coaches, and all the administrators. It gives the referees another opportunity to hone their skills, so that we can really fast track the development of women referees in the region, which, by the way, we have been doing exceptionally well on, with some of our referees having gone to World Cups, both senior and junior. But again, another opportunity. We need to grab it with both hands. The big thing with the thing that has held us back as a zone, I think, to a certain extent, in terms of what we have been able to do, is funding. We do get.
Thank you very much, Sue. I'll just take a break with you, but I'll be coming back with more questions for you. At this timing point, let me recognize the Africa Union Sports Council Region 5 Vice Chair, Mr. Raphael Mulenga, and Development Commission Chair Lady, Eugenia Chidakwa from Zimbabwe, as well as the Region 5 partner, Tafisa, represented by Kerry McDonald from Germany. I want to, while our IT is preparing for us to just have a word from one of the inspirational ladies who is an athlete. She is a motorsport sensation and a champion also, and thriving in a very male-dominated sport. That would be Tanya Mzinda. I also want to maybe just take you to also recognize the Botswana, Olympic Committee President. I hope I pronounce your name well, sir, Mr. Botsang Selego, and Zambia Olympic Committee President, Mr. Alfred Foloko. I hope I pronounced your names correctly. Please don't take offense if I did make a mistake. My tongue is a little bit hard, but all the same, we are going to be discussing with Desiree Ellis. She is the head coach for the South Africa Women's National Football Team, Banyana Banyana. She has played competitive football herself from the age of 15 and retired at the age of 42. She has an amazing story because most would not believe if I say she started playing her football, breaking into the professional zone. From what I noticed, if I'm correct, it said at 30, and I said, wow, this is really amazing. Playing at 15 in the streets, she's known to have been that girl who is always associated with the streets and boys playing soccer. I don't want to go into her rich profile. I'll allow her to also just come in and give us a brief introduction of who she is, how she sees herself, before I start throwing my first question to her. And then after the first question, we'll take in Tanya Mzinda's short video, short message on how she sees, she wants to celebrate the Women's Month and wants to inspire other women to also break the barriers.
Good morning, Merit, and good morning to the panelists and the attendees. Thank you for the kind introduction. I actually started playing at the age of 6 when I was still at school. And regularly got into trouble because I wasn't supposed to go into the boys' playground to play football. I then joined a team at the age of 15, a girls' team at the age of 15, but up until then I played with boys. At the age of 30, I made the national team. And on my way back, after making my debut as the vice captain, I lost my job and I was out of work for 3 years because back in the day, we used to travel with a minibus and we got a puncture along the way and I got back to work a day late, and they said that I had absconded. And I also had got sisters. My father took over the club that I joined, which was Athlone Celtic. And when the management decided to fold, my father took over the club, and my 3 sisters were forced to play. At the age of 30, as I said, I made the national team. The very next year, I became the captain of the team until I played my first tournament, big tournament, which was the 2002 COSAFA Cup in Zimbabwe. I was the captain of the team, and that was the first trophy that Banyana won. I then became the coach of a club called Spurs Women's Football Club until I became the assistant coach of Banyana in 2014, then became the acting coach of Banyana in 2016, and the permanent head coach of Banyana in 2018. Along the way, I had many hats back in the province where I grew up in the Western Cape. I had many hats. I was a junior convener. I was a coach of the under 15 girls. I was a coach of the under 19 girls. I was a president of women's football in the province at Safa Cape Town. I was a president. I was a PRO. So I wore many hats, but I'm just someone that fell in love with football. You know, I fell in love with football. And for me, the biggest thing was the support of my parents, because back in the day when I was growing up, there was a lot of stereotyping that girls shouldn't play football, etc. But my parents, my late father was actually my biggest critic, but he was always also my biggest supporter. And I've always had the support of my family. And I think that for me was very important. And as a coach, I have so many mentors that, you know, that I can turn to. Fran Hilton Smith being one of them, Nomsa Maklangu, Ilam Groenewald, you know, good administrators that have been in the game, and former coaches, like I still chat to Vera Pauw and Jackie Shipanga of Namibia. So I'm fortunate that I've had that support. But, you know, when you have a passion for something and you get paid for it, it's even so much better. But we all start on a voluntary basis. But then eventually, you know, the passion drives you. And I'm fortunate that, you know, I'm the coach of such a fantastic group of players.
Thank you, Desiree. It seems nothing eluded you. Let's talk about the being 2-time CAF Best Women's Coach, taking Banyana to the FIFA World Cup in 2018, finishing as runners-up at the Africa Women's Cup of Nations. You have such a rich history and so many accolades coming your way. Maybe we would want to know, how have you managed to maneuver as a woman and being able to achieve all that, especially if we look at the challenges that women speak up?
I think Katie mentioned something about, you got to take up the space. And Sue mentioned something about you got to know your value. And I think that's important. And you got to know your craft. I'm a current CAF-A license holder, but I've also surrounded myself with expertise. I think that has been key for me. Surrounding myself with expertise, people that know in their field. Our football conditioning coach, the assistant coach has got huge knowledge on women's football, but also a CAF-A license holder. Our goalkeeper coach has got a SAFA professional license. Our performance analyst who's now just become the head coach of the South Sudan women's national team. Top people. And I think that has really helped me grow. That has really helped the team escalate. And then you have a group of players that buy into the vision that you have. You have a group of players that work behind the scenes. When everyone's on holiday, they're busy training. So it's a team effort. For me, it's more than that. It's a team effort. And then you have a group of coaches that coach in the league that contribute to that. So yes, I get the accolade, but at the end of the day, the accolade goes to everyone that's been involved in women's football, because there's not many resources for women's football, especially at club level. And these coaches and owners and managers put so much work in, sometimes taking money out of their own pocket. So they've got to be rewarded when the national team does well. So if the national team doesn't do well, yes, it's the coach that stands in the forefront, but we've got to give credit where it's due to the people in the background.
I will allow our IT guys to just throw in a message from Tanya before we proceed. Desiree?
Hello everyone, my name is Tanya Muzinda and I'd like to congratulate the African Union Sports Council Region 5 for dedicating the month of March to celebrating women and girls. It can be tough for women and girls to succeed in sports that are male dominated. We are often looked down upon or praised, and people don't take us seriously because of our gender. But I believe that if we continue to believe in ourselves and continue to support each other, women to women and girls to girls, we'll be able to make the impossible possible. The future is in girls' and women's hands.
The future is indeed in girls and women to provide the solutions. She speaks about the difficulties that women encounter. And I want to pose the question to you, Desiree, to say, female athleticism has remained framed within these stereotypes, appearances, sometimes where attractiveness is rather focused on instead of issues to do with skill, where you still find people saying she plays like men. How did you maneuver that, or in your experience as coach and also as an athlete, how did you manage to beat these stereotypes and overcome them and not quit to say, this is not my field, or because I've faced a lot of criticism, a lot of stereotypes, maybe let me throw in the towel? How have you managed?
As an athlete, I remember going to a match and walking in behind some guys who had nothing to do that Sunday afternoon and passing comments and saying, let's go have a laugh, let's go watch these girls play. And I think by the performances on the day, you change the perceptions and you change the people's mindsets. Those same guys became our biggest fans and our biggest supporters. You look at the success of Banyana, how it has changed the landscape of women's football in the country. How each and every girl out there wants to play football. We have university football. As Sue said, we have the U17s and the U20s at COSAFA as well. I think that has all changed perceptions and mindsets. You've got to know your worth and you've got to know your value. And, I'm not afraid, I'm sure Sue the same, is not afraid to sit in the company, of males and be able to talk about football because we know our craft. And I think that's been the most important thing for me, is to evolve the game, but also to know my craft and to be assured and speak with confidence. Sometimes the space is there, but we're afraid to take it up for the fear of what some might say. But I feel if you're good enough, then you should raise your hand Just recently, Lydia Munyapau, who was a former player and a manager of Banyana Banyana, applied for the CEO position at the South African Football Association. And she was in the top three, the final three. So if we don't take up the spaces, then we'll never get the opportunities and we'll never be able to show our worth and our value. And once you show your worth and your value, people respect you a little bit more for what you know and what you can do. And I think, but the most important thing for me is I think as women, we should support each other. We don't do it often enough. You can go to a Kaiser Chiefs or London Pirates game, there's more women there. But you go to a Banyana game, there's hardly any women coming to the game. So we as women, when we're saying that people don't support us, we're the first ones that should go to a netball match, that should go to a cricket match. And we should celebrate the achievements of women more often. And in that way, people can see that there are opportunities, and people can see that if the opportunities come and you grab it, that is the outcome. As Sue has explained with the COSAFA Cup, I mean, of the 2019 squad of the Banyana that went to the COSAFA Cup, 9 of those players are now playing abroad. So you've got to grab that opportunity and you've got to take up the space.
Thank you. And when it comes to issues of women's sponsorship, equal remuneration, and even media coverage, what is your comment to that, and how can we as women try to advance this so that we at least try to get an equal footing with where the men's game is?
We always say that if the team does well, the sponsors will come on board. We qualified for the final of the African Women's Championships. We've won 4 COSAFA Cups in a row. We've gone to the World Cup, but yet the sponsors are not coming on board. We're privileged and honored to have a fantastic sponsor like Cecil, who's been on board. They actually came out of men's football and started sponsoring women's football in 2009. And, I think people in marketing are the ones that maybe really should tell us what it is that sponsors are looking for, because we've done everything we could. You look at Custer Semenya, for example, she's done everything she could, but yet the sponsors are not falling over their feet. So all we can do as sports people is to continue progressing, to continue going to tournaments, and hopefully sponsors will come on board. There are so many sponsors that sell female products, and why is it that they do not come on board? Because that is the most important thing as well. And I think if they can come on board and support us, then women's in sport will just rise further and further.
Thank you. In the next 3 minutes, allow me, participants and attendees, to introduce one of our female athletes who is a swimming sensation based in Botswana, and currently she's based in the US. And she has a message that she also wants to share with you. So I will allow Tumsang to throw in that video before we continue our discussion with the panelists that are present here.
My name is Naomi Rwele. I am a swimmer for Botswana, and I wanted to first of all thank AUSC Region 5 and me to be a panelist, and also congratulate and really I'm grateful to them for celebrating Women's Month and dedicating it to women in sport. As a woman, recognition is hard to come by because of the stereotypes that are already placed on women, especially from growing from a girl who's just discovering my own self as a person and living in a patriarchal world outside of sport. It does translate heavily into sport because, people will make so many arguments about how men's sports are more fun because of women sort of filter into a systemic issue of which translates to less funding for women, which translates to less support for women, which translates to less viewership for women. And that just means women, in essence, have to work twice as hard to achieve, just a bare minimum support. You have to really, on top of doing the aggressive action of your sport, then you become stuck also having to fight for your rights. And I think that is an inherently deep problem that needs to be addressed, as women are incredibly strong. Women take on so many different fights, and you know, women also support their male counterparts on top of that. And I think that reciprocation is something that we need to see more of. And I think from my experience as an athlete and being able to see firsthand what it's sort of like to fight the good fight, so that, you know, you are representing young girls and you have the ability to really show them that regardless of what obstacles are placed on you based on living in a patriarchal world, you know, it's upsetting because you didn't even decide for that to even happen, and yet you are just placed in this this arena. And I think the women that I have grown up with, the women that have really broken barriers, are women who encourage younger women in sport to continue even with these obstacles in mind. And I think if there's one message I would like to leave my fellow young women and girls in sport is, you know, never give up. You get to determine who you are. You get to determine what mark you leave on the world. You get to determine how impactful your presence is, and whether that, you know, us coming together and realizing that we're all we have. You know, essentially, we try so hard, you know, individually. And for me, I'm in an individual sport. To some degree, swimming is an individual sport. But I realized that my impact can create an environment within women, and I want to kind of encourage people to always remember that you're fighting the good fight not only for yourself, but for other people as well. And no matter what, you can choose what you want to do. At the end of the day, your life is your life that you hold, and your impact and your name is decided on by you. And I believe as women, we have such challenges that we have just so many incredible women who've surpassed so many issues. And I think that if you're wondering if you should continue, you definitely should, because you are fighting the good fight. And my last point is just, I mean, the future belongs to women and girls. The future is ours, and we get to determine how we will be, you know, viewed. Thank you so much, and happy Women's Month.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you have heard the message from Naomi, where she speaks of the gender assumptions that continue to happen, the stereotypes and the obstacles that women face. Just as we are about to wrap up, I want to pose one question to all our three participants. But I see Sue had a hand up, so I'll allow her to speak first as we answer that particular question. To say, yes, we are saying the future is in the hands of women, and we need practical solutions coming from these three expert women that have been in the field of sports leadership for some time. But how can we work with men as allies, which is my question to you, to advance women leadership, or women is taking up sport? How can we advance that? How can we work with men to try and advance that drive? I'll take Sue first, and then I'll take KD and wrap up with Desiree. Sue, your mic is off.
My apologies. It was just to add on to what Desiree was saying before the break, in terms of the game is getting better, and the thought is that you know, as the game gets better, as the team gets better and does better, etc., so the sponsors will follow, and it hasn't happened. I think also a big push needs to be done with our broadcasters, that they need to put their money where their mouth is, in terms of equity in sport. As Desiree mentioned, you know, it's more often than not, the women who go to the supermarket and are buying the toothpaste and the face cream and even, you know, the husband's aftershave or deodorant and things like that. So it's your brands that, you know, are your retail brands. But I think the more that our broadcasters can also get on board and support women's sport across the board. We're talking, you know, I'm talking about football, as is Desiree, but all sports. You know, we need to harness the power of television, whether it is mainstream broadcasters or whether it is, you know, cloud-based or the social media, etc. Really to be driving the message, driving the numbers, because with the numbers, in theory, should attract the sponsors. But maybe we need to do something more. Maybe we need to have you know, a workshop with Pan-African sponsors, you know, in one room, and be presenting what you know, what the different sports are doing, what they have to offer, you know, in the space of women's sport in particular, and hearing from them what is driving their brands.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Merit, yeah, just going
Yes.
back to your question, what was it? How we can deal with, you know, in a men's world? I think we have to not think that we can do it alone, nor do we want to do it alone, because the men, you know, have been and are there at the highest level, and we need to learn from them on a daily basis. We need to be supported by them as we support them. So we can't think that we are going to succeed and be able to operate in a nucleus. We have a symbiotic relationship in all walks of life. So let us take our seat at the table because we have honed our craft. We are there with confidence because we know what we can do and the value that we can add, but also be working with our menfolk.
Katie, would you want to take that question to say, how can we work with men as allies to advance women leadership or in sport?
Well, thank you, Merit. And I think it was very well outlined by Sue. And first, I'll take this opportunity to really thank all the men that are very courageous in helping and pushing women in that field. I know for myself that I have amazing, let's say, male mentors really that are helping and supporting and pushing and believing in what I'm doing. And I think that's very important to acknowledge the role that they can play. And I believe even if we have this platform here, a lot of men have contributed to that. And to that, I really want to thank also my brother, Stanley Mutoya, the chair of the AUSC Zone 5, for this platform, even for us. I think that's really important. And I'll jump on another comment from both, I think Desiree and our swimmer, who was saying we need as women to support each other. Some practical solution is really to, when I get up one ladder, who can I bring in with me? Can one woman take another one by the hand every time that we go up the ladder? I think that's really important, to also ourselves be mentors to other women and girls and not be afraid. I think culturally we are designed, women are not designed, I think, to support each other. And that's sad to say and to realize, but even culturally, it's really hard for women to admit that sometimes we compete, we want to compete, but women must empower each other. Girls can compete, but women must empower each other. I think that's really, really important to see. But really, again, we need the male, as Sue said, this is half of us. In all walks of life, she said, this is half of us. So we cannot do it without the men. So really, thank you to all the men who are still helping and who are courageous to take women by the hand, to empower them, because this is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Desiree, I'm going to be very, very, I don't know. I'll give you 1 minute to respond to how should then the future be changed to create opportunities, and how can we make men our allies in the advancement of women's sport. Just 1 minute before we can wrap up. Our time is up.
I agree with both Sue and Katie. We cannot work in isolation. You notice I said coaches. I didn't say male or female coaches, because in our space, there's a lot of male coaches that contribute to to women's football, especially in South Africa. In the technical team, we have male coaches as well. For me, we've got to work together. But when the spaces open up, the women need to raise their hand and try to take up those spaces. And I think that's the most important thing, is to take up those spaces when it does happen, and not be afraid to raise your hand. You have the qualifications, then why not raise your hand and put your hand up? As Sue said, she worked in marketing. Now she's practically in charge of the Kasafa region. So if she hadn't raised a hand, then we would take up that space. Our president, Dr. Danny Jordan, decided that all our women's national teams would be coached by females. Our under-17 coach Simpliwe Dludlu went to the World Cup in 2018. So the opportunity is there. We've just got to grab that, but we've got to work together. We cannot work in isolation. We've got to work together with our male counterparts, because they have the same vision that we have.
Thank you very much. I think we are right at the end of our webinar. It's unfortunate we had to take 4 minutes of your extra time, but I want to thank everyone else who attended this particular call, all the audiences that have come through, and special thank yous to the Africa Union Sports Council Region 5 leadership and National Olympic Committee's presidents who are with us. I also want to recognize the Africa Union Sports Council head office from Yaoundé, Cameroon, Miss Lina Casey. Welcome, madam. I apologize to be acknowledging you right at the end of our webinar. But all the same, I want to thank you, and I hope as women we have had, they are saying, send the elevator down to get the next woman. Raise your hand if there is an opportunity, so that you can be seen and be counted, and maintain and break those barriers. Continue to maintain your resistance, your consistency, and that fierce, that passion. Never let anyone kill that passion that you have. I want to go back to the Region 5 to say their theme, or it speaks or challenges us. It's instructive to us when they say the leading home of innovation and excellence. And this was indeed a lunchtime with excellence, a lunchtime where we had 3 beautiful ladies that were here to share with us, committed their time to be with us, to share on the experiences on how the future can be shaped within women's solutions, on how women can play their part in trying to raise the bar and getting to the levels that the men are. I want to thank everyone before I can say have a good afternoon. Enjoy your lunch for those that have not had their lunch. But I want to thank you again and say we hope to see you next time. Please do follow us on our Facebook page, which is Africa Union Sports Council Region 5. It leaves me just to say thank you and to say goodbye and enjoy your day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.